everybody, and welcome back to my channel. On this week's episode of 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After, the toxic masculinity just jumped out of Asuelu on a level that I have never before seen. It was very difficult to get through his scenes with his wife Kalani because he kept, in my opinion, verbally abusing her and berating her motherhood, her voice, everything. It was a very difficult episode for the two of them, particularly for her. I think in his terms, he's just embarrassed because he was aired out for the way he talks to her in private. But in terms of Kalani, she has to watch back her husband verbally abusing her in front of their children and in front of her mother as well. And I cannot even imagine what that's like. Just to lay down the foundation of what was going on, we watched the past couple of episodes as Asuelu talked about feeling homesick and wanting to go back to Samoa to see his family and to introduce his children to his family as well, which is fair enough. Like, homesickness is very real. It's, you know, like not only moving to a new country, learning a new language, trying to blend into a new culture, but like him, he pretty much immediately threw a wife and kids into the mix. So he never really got to acclimate to America like by himself without having to worry about like all of these different people, these different moving pieces. So I get where he's coming from in terms of his homesickness, 1000%. And so the unfortunate thing that we found out was that he wouldn't be able to safely, confidently go to Samoa with his kids because there was a measles outbreak. Yes, his older son Oliver did receive his vaccine to counter the measles, but he had a very adverse reaction to the vaccine. So Kalani, understandably, has a lot of anxiety surrounding vaccinating their other son, their younger son, Kennedy, particularly because the doctor said, you know what, Kennedy is a bit younger than when we would typically start the measles vaccine. However, he is still within that range where he can get it if this is an emergency that you guys have to go to Samoa and like there's no way around it. And so obviously Kalani was like, well, no, it's not really an emergency. So we don't want to go in the middle of an outbreak with these young kids, especially not wanting to take the chance on vaccinating Kennedy too early because Oliver already had a rough time with the vaccine as an older baby. So she said, no, we're not going on this trip. Instead, what we can do to kind of help Asuelu get a little bit of a change of pace, maybe find some more happiness and spark, is go on a family road trip to California to see more of my family. Hopefully that will help. And I thought that that was very considerate on her part to still take part in a getaway, because you know what, road tripping for hours with two small kids is not easy. Like, it was a huge sacrifice on her part. So Kalani, Asuelu, Kennedy, Oliver, and Kalani's mother all pile into the car. Kalani's mother is driving, and Asuelu is just pissed off that he's going to California to be with her family instead of going to Samoa with his family. He feels like it's ridiculous that she does not want to have Kennedy vaccinated too soon. So Kalani at first is in the backseat with the kids. They're both fussing and crying, which would drive anybody crazy, especially because, you know, with her breastfeeding, I assume she is up like all night, running on like E in terms of sleep. So after a while, she's like, I am so over it being cooped up with these kids in the back seat. Can we switch? Asuelu says no. He's like, because when the kids wake up, they're gonna want boobies, which is true, they probably will. But he was just still so inconsiderate and lacking in empathy towards his wife, and that was quite unfair. So after about 4 hours, the kids wind down and start sleeping, at which point Kalani does manage to get Asuelu to switch places with her. And so while the kids are sleeping, he goes, wow, this is what you were complaining about? It's so easy. And she, quite frankly, is very justifiably irritated by the way that he is talking down on the job that she does as a stay-at-home mom. She's like, it's only easy because they already fell asleep by the time we switched places. Like, wait until they get up. Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you think my job is easy? He's like, yeah, I think it's easy. Then her mom asks him, well, do you think it's just like Kalani as being a stay-at-home wife, or just like Americans in general have it easy? And then Asuelu says that Americans in general have it easy, which please don't skewer me, but I have to agree. Like, compared to what mothers are putting up with in Asia, in Africa, in parts of Europe as well, yes, American mothers do have it pretty easy. Like, you know, he explained it quite well. He's like, you guys have a dishwasher, you have a washing machine, you've got XYZ, like, you know, you've got clean water right in your house as well. Like, there's a lot of amenities, all of which do make it easier to be a stay-at-home mom in America versus in other places of the world. But I just, you know, he was picking at her, and that was not fair. I think he really wanted to get a reaction out of her. And Kalani's like, okay, well, if it's so easy, then why don't you help me? Like, you never get up in the middle of the night with me. Like, you don't help clean up the house when we're at home with the babies, so why don't you help? And he claims that he gets up sometimes, but he's busy with other stuff. And she asks him what, because all he does is work part-time, like at a grocery store or something like that, giving out food samples. And he's like, just stuff. And then he claims again that he does help her out. And she says, why are you lying? And then he calls her a lying bitch. And my jaw kind of dropped there, because like I always saw him as kind of like dopey, not abusive. So at that point I'm like, whoa, like there's something seriously wrong going on here, that this man feels comfortable enough calling his wife a lying bitch in front of their kids and in front of her mother and in front of cameras. What happens off camera between the two of these? Because this is not looking good. And it only gets from bad to worse when she continues like kind of like protesting like the negative things he's saying about her motherhood. And he goes, oh my God, and your voice is so effing annoying too. And at this point, Kalani's mom steps in, understandably. Like, this man is verbally abusing her daughter. And she's like, hold up a second. Like, the way you're talking to her is not acceptable at all. Like, I dare you to speak to her that way in front of my husband. Like, see what happens to you. And I was like, yes, girl, stand up for your own. And then at that point, Asuelu's like, she's my wife. I can say whatever I want. And the mom's like, no, you can't. Say it in front of my husband. Let's do it. You know, it's a family getaway. The husband's coming. Wait and see how tough you are when a big, bad Samoan man is ready to put you in your place. Spoiler alert, like most men who feel comfortable talking to women like this, Asuelu does not stick around to find out how Kalani's dad would react to him speaking to her this way. So Asuelu's like, well, if your daughter asks stupid questions, and like he really just keeps going in on Kalani, and it was like my stomach was turning watching him talk to and about his wife this way. Like someone who just stays home at home all day, raising and loving his kids. This is the way he treats her. Repulsive, repulsive, repulsive. So after a couple more hours, they arrive in California in the house, and then he goes out back, picks some oranges to eat, and Kalani confronts him about what went down in the car. She's like, what's going on, Asuelu? Like, what happened back there? And so he complains that her mom was on her side. And like, you know, anybody, even Asuelu's own parents, hopefully, I would pray, would be on her side if they saw the way that he spoke to her. And so yeah, like they didn't really find a resolve there. And so what he does is he packs up his bags and decides to just leave the house without saying goodbye to Kalani, without saying goodbye to the kids, nobody. He just finishes his little, like, you know, orange, comes in the house, grabs his phone, grabs his suitcase, puts on his little sandals, and walks out the door. And so his son Oliver starts walking after him like, Dad, where are you going? He never once turns around, and Kalani is like trying to warn him because he's obviously walking down the street, down the driveway into the street, and the son is like, what, 3 years old, following him? She's like, dude, your son is following you into the street. Like, stop him. It's dangerous. And Asuelu never once turned around. And I was like, that scene tells you everything you need to know about how involved and how caring he is when it comes to his children. That made me uncomfortable. So he goes down the street. Kalani's like, you know what? I am not dealing with this. I'm picking up my son, going back inside. And so Asuelu manages to find a bus, which in my opinion was way too convenient. He found a bus that just so happened to be idle, waiting there. It also just so happened to be empty. Producer plant, in my humble opinion. And so he goes, you know what? Like, I'm gonna go with her, the bus driver lady, to find somewhere to stay, take the mic. Like, no, it is not that simple to just hop on like any old bus. Like, you would have to go on like your phone, try to figure out what goes where, how to connect from this place to that place, because the bus he boarded potentially could have been going further down south or somewhere, you know what I mean, that takes him either further away from his home with Kalani, like not the California family home of hers, but like the one that they actually live in, where he ideally, well, I would imagine, wants to go. And so yeah, it was very crazy to watch Asuelu go from like a dope, in my opinion, I hope that's not offensive, to straight up abusive. Like, I was personally shocked. Were any of you guys shocked by his massive transformation this episode? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.